if you're single and you desire love, I want you to know that you have to take responsibility over your own love life. Just like you take responsibility in everything in your life. You know how to look for a job, you go get education, you up your skills, you build a house, you have to take responsibility over it. Don't leave it to chance. Don't be passive about it.
Mhm.
Don't be like it will happen when it's supposed to happen. And if there's something that doesn't sit with you, that you've been hanging on to, question that. Question those beliefs. Approach it with curiosity. Ask yourself, okay, how else can I do this? Take responsibility over your love life. The destination is the journey. It's not the end. It's
Mhm.
The man is gonna come. That's like inevitable. Like he is going to come. And I want them to enjoy the process. So once they get to that point, and that is the work, even for me as a coach, it's getting them to enjoy that process, because you're not going to find somebody until you are at a high vibrational level where you are enjoying.
Good afternoon. This is Dolly Ochola of Kavaya's Daughter Speaks. It's 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it's a good day in New Jersey. The summer is here. The summer is upon us. It's a beautiful day. And today I have with me Wamboi Cavanaugh, and she's a life and dating coach. Wamboi, I want to thank you so much for taking time. We did try to come live on Sunday, but we had technical difficulties. But Wamboi is gracious enough. She gave us another hour of her time. And Wamboi, I am very grateful for your presence here and for honoring us with your presence and your expertise.
Thank you.
So I am going to let you introduce yourself and then we move on.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. It's an honor. So I'm quite excited. And introduce myself. Now, that question is very like, okay, I'm Charity Wamboi Cavanaugh,
Yes.
and she's introduced, I'm a life and dating coach. So that's what I do. I coach single women over 40 on life, love, and dating. So most women come to me, they want to make a change in their lives, or they want to figure out this love and dating thing. And that's really what I do in a nutshell.
Nutshell.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Charity, this is a question that I ask my guests all the time.
Okay.
Tell us something about yourself that we don't know.
Oh my gosh. You should have told me you're going to ask that. That who doesn't know? That you don't know, or people
That
don't
most
know?
people don't know, even the people who know you. Something fun, something exciting, deep, narrow, shallow, whatever it is.
It doesn't matter.
Some-
Okay.
Yes.
Um, I am an introvert.
Oh, okay.
I'm an introvert. However, I'm not shy.
Okay.
I'm not shy. So people kind of get it mixed up, because I
Mm-hmm.
guess, when you meet me in person, I might be outgoing, talkative, I draw people in.
Mm-hmm.
So, people will tend to think I am an extrovert. I'm extroverted, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
not. Like, going out and socializing gives me a lot of, it's like I have to prepare, but I'm not shy. So, which is a
Okay.
little bit like confusing to some
Yes.
people. So, I would say that's just one thing, one of the many which I can think of right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Charity, today we are going to talk about dating, and dating is a very important part of our lives because most people come from a family unit. And most family units began with a date somewhere, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
So, if I may ask, what made you decide, you know what, this is something that I am passionate about? I'm passionate about dating and especially women over 40.
Yeah.
What do you have any life experiences, or what is it that drew you to this line of work?
This niche. Okay, that's a great question. Actually, I do remember something that people don't know about me.
Oh, okay, okay. Go ahead. Go
It
ahead.
kind of ties back into my story. Now, I before I became a life coach, I was or am a professional accountant, a
Ah,
CPA back home.
oh, okay.
Absolutely, back home in Nairobi. So
Yes.
that's something people don't know about me. And I didn't. I was okay at it. I didn't love it. I wasn't passionate about it, but
Okay.
that's something that people don't know about it. I don't really love numbers, although I can do them. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Okay. That is like I never thought of you as an accountant. Okay, that's an interesting
yeah. That's a good.
revelation.
I know, right? Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes.
anyway, how did I come to this? It's kind of a, backstory is that, wow. So I got married when I was 38. But prior to that, like in my early 20s, I was this girl who, of course, wanted to get married like most ladies. And it's something that I desired.
Mhm,
I was very active in church back then. I'm a Christian. I say I'm a Jesus follower.
mhm,
And so my journey then was, of course, desiring love.
mhm.
Um, but it wasn't happening for me. Like I had lots of friends getting married. I knew so many people getting married. It's something I decided, but it just wasn't happening, right? But the backstory of the backstory, like I mentioned, I was an accountant. I was working in public service at the time.
Okay.
And I grew up in Nairobi, went to school, University of Nairobi, did my CPAs, and I landed this job. So it, to me, wasn't a job or profession that I would have imagined I would do, but I was there,
Okay.
decent pay. So I wasn't really also passionate about my job, about whatever I was trying to do. So when I hit 30, it's like I would say what we call the time purpose clock. It's kind of like ticking at you, and you're like, okay, is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? I don't feel joy. I don't feel fulfilled. I don't feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So that led me to hiring my first life coach. I
Okay.
was about 32, 33 at the time. And what I discovered through that coaching process is that I was so out of alignment with what I was doing, with my
Okay.
value system, which is about, growth, helping people, inspiring people. So I've always been like the type of person who helps other people. And that's why I was so mismatched with my profession. So that led me into like, okay, maybe this is something that I'm supposed to be doing. So I did a lot of research around coaching, and I was like, I'm going to give this a shot. So I enrolled in a coach training school, and that's where I got my certification. But at the same time, I was also going through this idea of like, okay, why am I single? What is it that I'm missing? But you see, I was already in a coaching space.
Mhm.
So going into a season of like conscious dating, as they call it, like being deliberate about dating, and also training as a coach and being coached myself is what accelerated me being able to meet my husband, which was a very intentional process.
Okay.
So, with that background and
Mhm.
me finally getting married, moving to the US, launching my business as a coach, I started as a general life coach at first. I knew I wanted to help women like me who'd struggled finding love, but I
Okay.
only did that like 2 years into my business. So 2 years later, I decided to niche fully on love, and my simple premise was, I know there's so many women out there who desire love.
Mhm.
They don't know how to go about it. Maybe they're struggling, maybe making mistakes, or maybe they just even haven't dated in a while. And so that's what made me curate something specifically for these ladies, just because of my own story and what I knew is possible. In a long story short, yeah,
Okay.
that's really how I got into dating coaching. Yeah.
So when you say that, it makes me believe that because I heard you use some terminologies and you said conscious dating.
Mhm.
Can you please define for us what conscious dating is?
All right. I guess what conscious dating means is being deliberate, like deciding and being deliberate on wanting to pursue, not to pursue, to pursue like improvement in your dating life, or to actually be on a quest for love. So what that means is that you are you decide, because you have to decide that this is an area in my life that I want to work in with. Then you have to decide that this is an area that I need to prioritize and invest in. And then
Mhm.
being clear on who you are, what you want, what you desire, having the full awareness of yourself, your quirks, your I guess I would say your weaknesses, your strengths, everything
Mhm.
about you, and painting a clear picture of the type of relationship or the type of person that you want to be with, and then going out into the streets, of course,
Mhm.
with the dating skills and the relationship skills, to meet and socialize with men. I would say men or women, depending if you're a man or vice versa, to be able to start forming connections, conscious connections, to get to really see if you can find your person. By that I just mean like going out on dates, meeting people, observing them, learning them, figuring out what it is that you want, and doing that in a very strategic, deliberate, and conscious way, so that you can increase the chances of finding the person that you desire. That's what I mean by conscious dating. It's not a word I use often, but really that's what it is. It's something that people are not aware that they can do, because most of us have always just winged dating. For those who maybe got married when they were younger, right? It just kind of happened. And then for the rest of us, maybe who got married later, you just sort of feel, it's going to happen when it happens. So you're not really conscious about it, if that
Mhm.
makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. So then, okay, you mentioned that. So to be able to date consciously, I have to have criteria, right?
Mm-hmm.
Criteria that I know I want to see in this other person.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have to be out. You mentioned a couple of things. You mentioned I have to know what criteria I'm looking for, right, in the
Mm-hmm.
other person. But I also
Mm-hmm.
have to know myself, what
Mm-hmm.
my values are, and what my intentions and what my qualities are, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So where do you think, let's just jump right in.
Yeah.
Women women over 40, where do you think women over 40 go wrong? Is it in looking for the qualities of the other person, or in knowing themselves, or in both areas?
I think I don't think it's not about not knowing themselves. I think
Hmm.
it's about being passive about the process. That's really where they're stuck. It's about being passive. And what I mean is that there is, especially in our culture,
Hmm.
Africans and women of color, there's an understanding that this is supposed to happen, right? There's
Yes.
an understanding it's just supposed to happen. And
Hmm.
so why 40 is because they've been focusing on other areas of their life. So very high achieving women, great careers, great jobs, great aunties, great sisters, great community members of the community. And most of them are just stuck in two areas, just either that they haven't prioritized it and they don't. Now is when they're starting to think about it, right?
Hmm.
So that's the
Hmm.
first area. Or the second area is maybe you had a kid or a marriage that didn't work out, and you sort of like put it on the back burner. It's like it's not a priority. So I'm focusing on my kid, I'm focusing on my life. And you just don't prioritize it, right? Or
Hmm.
alternatively, maybe you were with somebody for a long time and like you're monogamously dating. What I mean by that is that you're just dating casually, one person at a time. So this person you aren't sure of for like 2, 3, 4 years, you're in a situationship for a long time. It wasn't defined, it wasn't clear. So the common thread that these ladies have is that they
Hmm.
just have not been deliberate about it. They've just been kind of like passive and been like, okay, it's gonna happen when it happens. I would say that's the biggest challenge of a 40. So what happens is that because they've had that mindset, they end up settling for relationships that are not good for them, or they just don't date at all. So I have clients and I talk to ladies all the time. They haven't dated 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. It happens. And when I say dating, I mean, that going out to meet people.
Hmm.
So I think that's really the challenge. And I think there's something about getting older. You kind of just like settle into the status quo, and you're like, you know what, it's fine. It's gonna happen when it happens. But I've met a lot of ladies who are like, okay, I need the help. I want to do something different. What should I do? Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, so talking about your own experience, right?
Yeah.
What do you think you did not do? Because I remember when I was dating, I
Yeah.
definitely knew, one or two things that I really wanted, but I never had a list. You know what I mean? I thought
Yeah.
that it was in my head. It was in my head. If the
Yeah.
person presents and I don't like them or we're not clicking, I would know and it would be the end of the story. I never thought about writing a list. I do hear people talking about writing a list.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
do you suggest that we write lists?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes and no. Okay, let's start with your first question. You said, "What is it that I didn't do that got me stuck?" Is that what you asked? There
Yes,
was a
that was the first question. I should
okay.
ask one question at a time.
No, that's fine. I got you.
Yeah.
I can see where your mind is going, where your thought pattern. So let
Yes.
me first answer that. So for me, I have a bit of a unique story, but again, not that unique, because I was a church girl, a Jesus girl, raised in church. The what we were taught at the time when I was in my late teens and early 20s is that, dating, that word dating is actually a sin, and you should actually be courting, and like
Mm-hmm.
you should actually, like, when you're interacting with the opposite sex, it needs to be like serious. You all need to be serious. You need to have heard from God. This needs to be the path to discover whether you guys should get married right from the get-go. So this idea of dating, where I've already defined what dating looks like, you're going on
Mm-hmm.
multiple dates with many guys. It was kind of like we were taught like it's a sin, it's wrong. So that, coupled with the idea that somebody will find me when it's time, so it made me just like not open. It made me not open. Why? Because I was always looking at men who I socialized with, maybe in church, as like, do you have the checklist, or do you appear to be Christian enough? Do you appear to be holy enough? Do you appear to be, all the things that we were taught? So, because of that, not being open, believing some ideology that was not 100% accurate. Fine, it was good for the teenagers, and it's good for, maybe, I would say, maybe the teens. That's not a, it's relative, but like for the teens, I can see why they would be as that strong safeguard. But as you're growing into an adult and moving into your 20s, you need to learn how to interact with men in a healthy way, right? Whether they are of the same faith or not, or like whether they're just wanting to ask you out for coffee or whatnot. So for me personally, that's where I was stuck. I would say that's what kept me single for all that time, because I just thought it was a sin. I thought it was wrong. So it wasn't until my coaching journey that I started to reframe. I started to become conscious of the thoughts, the beliefs, the misbeliefs that I believed were true, that were not serving me, and I had to redefine that and be like, okay, what does it mean for me?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that was where I was stuck. Now, some have that experience of the religion, some have that experience out of like maybe society or society's expectations, or maybe like your family, whatever it is, or maybe it's just a bad experience. So to bring up the idea of like the list, right? So
Mm-hmm.
before, like when I'm working with my clients, before we get to anything that looks like that, in terms of like a list of requirements, it's
Okay.
about being the type of woman or the type of person that the person that you desire is actually looking for and attracted to.
Okay.
Did you get that? So
Yes.
it is that being aspect, right? And that being aspect is about being a woman of substance, being, you know, healthy, being feminine, being confident, having a life of your own that you love and you enjoy. You have hobbies and interests that you greatly admire. So it's
Mm-hmm.
about living in a certain way that puts you in a high vibration to attract the type of person who would be actually attracted to you. So when it comes to the list, right? Or like the ideal, what I tell my clients to focus on instead of like the outside factors or
Mm-hmm.
the opposite of what we tend to sometimes express what we want in terms of what we don't want. So women are always like, I don't want a man who's this or that or the other, right? Or I want a man who is this or the other. But I usually say, like, how do you want, I tell them to express, like, how do you want your love life to be and to feel like? That's the most important. How do you want your love life to feel like? How do you want your relationship to feel like? And then we go into like, okay, what are the, like that's the overall vision, and then what do you want, what are your what are your values, because that's another very important part. What are your values and how do you live out these values in your
Mm-hmm.
life? Because marriage and partnership is about shared values. I feel like that's the
Yes.
most important criteria that you need to follow about, other than the person is healthy. Like, let's be clear on those values. How do you live out those values? And the person that you want to be with has to live out those values, not exactly in the same way, but they have to prioritize those values. And then we can get into what are your needs, what are your requirements, like what are your deal breakers, which should not be many, like 3 or 5, five
Mm-hmm.
at most, right? And
Yes.
then we can go into, okay, what are the nice to haves? What would be nice to have? It's not a deal breaker. So most people's lists are based on the nice to have. They've skipped all that
Mm,
process.
okay.
And that's why it's easy to meet, for some ladies to meet a guy and they're like, well, he checks everything on my list. You see?
Uh, but is that what you need?
It may not be what you need, or like there's just that you're not even aware. Like I said, you're not aware of who you are, what you want, what your values are, what your personality is, what you want to experience. You're not even that person from within,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that you can be able to attract that person. And then there's what is most important, requirements, and then there's then the other ones, like non-required, like they're not deal breakers, right?
Yes, yes, like the
So
type of car someone drives or whatever, like
right,
material things
right.
mostly.
Yeah, what people, what short, tall, try,
Mm-hmm.
race, what else? Economic status sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because once you see the outside of what is ideal, if you haven't gone through that real process of, and it's actually a self-discovery process, right? So
Mm-hmm.
when you come into my class, when we work together, we're doing like about 2 months of work before we get into dating, because at the end of the day, you're going to attract at your level. Like, men are mirrors. So if you
Mm,
are attracting men who are not ideal, they're reflecting something in you. There's something they're reflecting in you. So we have to work on that piece. And then now the list is what you will use when you
mm-hmm.
meet somebody that you really like, and you're like, am I being true to this? Does this truly align? Yeah.
You know what? I like what you said. Men are mirrors, so whatever you attract is a reflection of who you are.
It is.
And I also like the when you said that you have to think about it. This Prince Charming that I'm trying to attract, do
Yeah.
I have the qualities that that Prince Charming would be looking for? I don't think I've ever thought about it in
Yep.
those terms.
Yep.
Usually you think about things like dating in your own terms, not
Yeah.
in the other person's terms. So that is a very crucial thing.
Yeah.
So you talked about being feminine. What do you mean by that?
Well,
And is that a okay, two-part question?
yeah.
And is that an issue that you think um is that a big issue?
Is that a big? This is what I would say. In terms of like polarity attraction, right? In terms
Hmm.
of polarity and attraction,
Hmm.
that is a big deal. It's just understanding yourself and probably how you're showing up, right? And just to put it you plainly, I mean, we know this, we've learned this, is that there's the feminine flow or energy is just more of the flow and receptive and nurturing and kind of like soft, and then the masculine energy is more giving. So when it comes to the dating dynamic, right, um, when you're interacting with a man, right, it's important because you need to, for the polarity to be there. and for him to be attracted to you, to feel attracted to you, and probably vice versa, especially if you're trying to like meet guys and you want the spark, you want the chemistry, is that you need to just embody that energy. And just to be put it simply is, like I tell my clients, without even going so much into to that, because it's like a whole field of expertise
Mm-hmm.
in terms of like feminine embodiment and all that. But it just really looks like letting go of expectations and focusing on the connection and focusing on what's going on and allowing the man to pursue you. Usually the more you are relaxed and the more you are not attached to the process, the more you are sort of like focus more on connection, right? And relaxing and being and
Mm-hmm.
enjoying the process, the more attractive you are, right? If I was just to describe that in terms of dating behavior, like going out on dates, right?
Okay.
So that
Mm-hmm.
means we're not anxious about whether he likes us or not. We're not anxious about if he's if he didn't text in 3 days. We're not anxious about like you know sort of like seeing somebody and liking them and hoping things go far without even giving the engagement time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that ability to be in that state of detachment but connection is
Mm-hmm.
what creates that polarity. That's when you get men really, really wanting to pursue you. And one thing that I 1000% recommend is you have to go out on multiple dates until you are in an exclusive relationship. You're single, right? Until
Mm-hmm.
you're in an exclusive relationship, especially for over 40. And this is what I talk about, when we shouldn't be, of course, in a rush to like, you know, get together with somebody. I want you going out and meeting guys. I want you to enjoy the process. I want you to feel good about meeting men and talking and conversing and you grow as a woman. You grow in your emotional maturity. You learn how to put boundaries. You learn how to say no. You learn how to express your needs and your feelings, and you learn so much. And as you do that, you grow. And as you grow, you elevate, your vibration increases, and you're likely to attract a similar healthy man. So that's how I see femininity, like feminine energy playing out in the dating process. Is about being, connecting, enjoying, and also dating multiply. Because women, I always say, we are choosers,
Mm-hmm.
are the choosers. And by being a chooser, man means that you are engaged in the process of meeting and vetting multiple men so that you can choose who aligns with you. So when you're able to connect with several guys, you're even in a more feminine place because you are being a woman, you are being the chooser. If that kind of makes sense. Yeah. And I know like there's a lot that goes into it, traumas, you're a therapist, so I'm sure you know this better. There's stuff like trauma and you know attachments and things that may have gone on in the past that hinder women from showing up like that. But ideally, I believe this is something that can be learned in a healthy way, regardless of whatever you may have been through. Yeah.
Okay. So now, because your
Mhm.
clientele is mostly women who are over 40 and they're high achieving, one of the most common things I've heard about that is that men are intimidated by
Mhm.
high achieving women,
Mhm.
and especially if they're over 40, because that means that they're kind of somewhere in their career.
Yeah.
What say you, Miss Cavanaugh? What say you about
No,
that?
I think that is just to be honest, that is, if you keep getting that feedback from men
Mm-hmm.
or you keep feeling like that, that just means you've not learned to switch your energies in the context of an interpersonal relationship, right? A healthy man is not intimidated by a go-getter, high-achieving woman. He loves that. He will encourage that. He will support that. A healthy man is never intimidated by the success of a woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, if as a high achieving woman, I mean, of course, and we need our masculine energies to perform in our jobs, to do what we need to do in life, to make things happen, to achieve, to some women are bosses, they control, they direct, they manage, many people. But when it comes to interpersonal relationships, when you're interacting with a man, you have to learn how to switch that. And that's the thing with high achieving women is that they innocently think, and I was guilty of that, right? When I first started dating,
Mm-hmm.
I thought that like, oh, the more I say about who I am, what I've done, like I'm well traveled, I have a master's degree, I have this job, and this is what I do. I just thought, oh yeah, that is part of that is how a man will know like I'm high value, right? But for a man,
Mm.
your value to him does not come from what you do. It comes from who you are and your state of being. So switching that energy, and that just really again looks like being more of a, kind of like a listener, engaging, asking, having great conversations that evoke an emotional connection with the guy, just like knowing how to ask the right questions, just being relaxed in your body, having fun, being playful, being flirty. That's the kind of energy that creates attraction in the dates. And so if a woman says like men are intimidated from me, she's the common denominator for the most part. I mean, unless she's with someone toxic, like she's the common denominator. And so I would look at that and be like, okay, how am I showing up in the date? How am I showing up when I'm interacting with men? Am I switching into more of that feminine nature? And there's ways to be able to do that. So I tell my clients like, before let's say you've had a hard day at work and you have a date lined up, you want to turn on some music, you want to listen to the music, you want to dance a little bit, you want to take a long bath, you want to take time to like switch into.
Decompress. Mm-hmm.
Exactly, to switch into, so that when you're going on the date, you're more relaxed, you're more in the moment, right? And you're not necessarily thinking about work and the things that you need to do and stuff like that. That's just a little small tip. Obviously, there's bigger considerations when you're thinking about being more in your feminine energy, but that's the consideration. And I know because I was that, because the first dates I used to go on, I would never hear from the guy again. In my mind, I was like, I thought the date went really well. I was like, we had a great conversation, like, but when I learned how I was showing up, I was like, oh. And then switching that around, now you're getting more people asking you out. Now you are going out on dates and guys are asking you out. Like you have more matches or dates that you can handle, and we
Mm-hmm.
do get there, but
Yes.
it's also like a learning process, yeah, until you find the guy, the one, the ultimate, the one for you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I'm just imagining Charity. So now you're used to a very different mindset.
Yeah.
Then you go on this coaching journey. And
Yeah.
then you find out that your mindset has not been the right mindset.
Yeah.
And now you're switching your mindset. How was that for you? I'm trying to think. I'm sure you remember your first date
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
presenting yourself as a new person with all these skills, all this knowledge. How was
Yeah.
that first date?
To be honest, it wasn't. I cannot even tell you when the first date was that clicked.
Okay.
To be honest, but what I can say is that it took me around, because I used to second guess myself, right?
Mhm,
So when I turned 33 is when I was like, okay, something is off here, right? I was like,
mhm,
I need to be a bit more open. But I wasn't quite sure what I needed to do. Before I was like, maybe I need a guy friend, maybe I need more guy friends, right? But then when I would interact with these guys, I would always second guess myself. First of all, I used to always feel like I'm doing something wrong.
mhm,
Like, you know, like I'm doing something wrong. And then obviously none of those dates materialized into like a relationship. So you kind of get I kind of got like a bit weary of the process. It wasn't until I hit 35 and I was actively in my coach training. So I was being coached. Actually,
mhm,
let me say this. I was working on two life goals. My first life goal was transitioning into a full time coach. By the time I was 40, that was my first life goal. We had
mhm,
to work on two life goals. And my second one was to date, because I had not even dated. I could not even picture being married. I could not even picture having a man, just because I had not even dated. So when I made that a conscious goal, and I allowed myself, I literally went through this moment of prayer, and I was like, God, how could I be wanting to get married so bad it doesn't happen? Now I'm 35. Like, I feel like you've played me here, you know? And I
Mm-hmm.
honestly felt like God was saying to me, you know, what would you do different? I was like, I'll go out on date. Okay, so go out on dates. So I had to give myself permission to go out and meet men without thinking about marriage. Now, I know that's a little bit different for the ladies who might be hearing this and for some of my clients, because they come for that purpose. But
Mm-hmm.
for me specifically, I had to literally like put marriage aside, simply because I wanted it so bad and it didn't happen. And I was like, what's going to happen if I never get married? So, because of that, there was a radical mindset shift that made me more relaxed. And I'm telling you, from that time on, I was able to go out on dates, meet guys. So I would have more guys approaching me. I was more friendly. I was more open, because I'm not like trying to like judge you and be like, okay, do you look a certain type of way?
Mm-hmm.
So I was more open, and even my body language was more open. And I guess that's a free flowing feminine energy that I wasn't aware that I was not embodying. And because I'm not attached to the outcome, right? And so because of that, I was
Mm-hmm.
more fun. I was more like, men enjoyed my company. So from then on, my dating life just took off. Literally, it just took off. And so that became super easy when I just completely detached. So that looked like going on a date. I'd meet guys. Maybe I'm at work, traveling for work a lot. So you're going out to dinner or something. You know, you just find people approaching you. I tried a bit of online dating just for the experience of it. Um, Sometimes it was through mutual friends. I just was able to connect with guys, and I just had a lot of guys asking me out. And it would look like a meal, a coffee, a drink sometimes, free flowing conversation, a good time. A lot of them were like, when can I see you again? When can I see you again? And of course, that comes with um, learning how to like manage,
Mm-hmm.
manage, have your boundaries, and know what you want, and know what you're here for, what you're not here for. But
Yes.
that's what I would say. Like, it just became much easier and fun too. They became fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know if that
Yes.
answers your question.
Yes, yes, it does. I'm just thinking, I think that is a very big mindset shift in your mindset,
It is.
because I'm thinking, I want to get married. So when I meet someone, I'm like, is this marriage material? But
Yeah.
I also see what you're saying. When you
Yeah.
change from that, then you get to know people on a deeper level
Yes.
without your judgment, which
Yeah.
is mostly uh, on the outside. Because if
Yeah.
you meet someone and decide in 2 minutes that you can't date that
Yeah.
person,
Yeah.
that means that that is a very superficial.
Yeah.
You're using very superficial criteria, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to say, this is what I want to say, and this is what I always tell my clients. Imagine that you're going out on a date with somebody, and he's thinking, is she this? Is she that? Is she ideal? Is she that? How would that make you feel? Right? So some women, we objectify men. We put them on a pedestal, and it becomes like, what can you do for me? I'm here for me. And that is the attitude that a lot of women date with. It's like, what can you do for me? Like, I'm here for my own end term goal, instead of I'm here for connection. So when you date like that, you attract similar guys. It's just energy. That's how it goes. But when you detach and you're like, you know what, I'm here for the connection, I'm here for the human experience, I'm here to learn, to connect with this person, and give
Mm-hmm.
myself a chance to first treat people as human beings in the interaction, and then they will show me through their behavior, their words, their actions, whether they are worthy of my presence, my energy, my connection, and all that. They're the ones who show. But before that, I'm here for the connection. That's one thing that I tell women. We objectify men a lot, and we
Mm.
think men are the ones who objectify, but we
Objectify,
are not.
yes. That's
We're
what I'm
actually
thinking.
for, yeah, we're here for our own agenda. You
So
you all
we are also guilty, maybe a different type of objectifying, but it's still the same. It's
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it is. Because if you flip it around,
yes,
how does that sit? If you flip it
yeah,
around, the guy is thinking that. How would you feel if you knew that those that's what is she's too thin, she's too this, she doesn't look enough, she doesn't look successful enough, she doesn't look like wife. Just imagine that.
yeah.
See, something else I want to say. When I start working with my clients, especially those who've not dated in years, like me,
Mm-hmm.
the first thing I tell them is like, we're going to prescribe a certain number of dates. I want you to just go out and date. We are not even worried about the exclusivity. Just to get into the experience and the groove and some people call that casual dating, but sometimes it's necessary, especially if you haven't dated for a long time and you don't even understand yourself. You don't even understand how you interact with men. I say, like, for a season of time, maybe like 3 months or like the first couple of X number of dates, let's just go out and date. And then when you get a feel of who you are, what you want, and we've done like a lot of work together, now we can come up with the dating plan. As to we can come up with the dating strategy of like, everything that I outlined, and it's something we write down. It's like clear.
Mm-hmm.
So there's those kind of two phases of dating, and then maybe if you come to me and you have experience dating, but you've been attracting to wrong type of guys, and you've been in relationships that are not working, then I know, okay, you have some experience. Let's now dial it down into like right off the bat because you already have that experience. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. So you meet
Mhm.
people at their level. That's what you're saying.
Exactly,
Oh,
exactly. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
okay. So I'm just wondering, have people complained to you about ghosting? Because that's the big thing that I
Oh,
hear. Ghosting, ghosting, ghosting. Like a lot of women complain that they're ghosted.
you know why they complain? Because
Mm-hmm.
that's their only prospect.
Uh-huh. And that's because you're dating one person at the same time,
But
at the time before becoming exclusive. Of course, when you
yes,
become exclusive, it is
yes,
exclusive. But
yes,
so in other words, you're saying that most women meet John, and then it's John alone, even before they determine whether John is even potential, right? So it's
yeah.
John alone. Then 3 months down the line, they're like, "Oh, John is not what I
You
ever
give too much.
envisioned."
You give too much of your energy to John. You give
Okay.
too much of your energy, too much of your time, too much of your thoughts, too much of your expectations. You put all your hopes and dreams on John, and John is just a character on the apps who's talking to 50 other women, right? That
Mm,
that's usually the major thing about ghosting. Now, of course, a guy can still ghost you. Like, let's say you go on a date and you have a good time and you feel like, oh, we had a really good time, and then you just never hear from them. I don't call that ghosting. I just call that, hey, he he didn't feel the connection for whatever reason. The reason doesn't matter. What matters is that you had a good time and
mm-hmm,
had the experience. And we can never try to like hypothesize, like, why did John not message? Why did he not? That can happen, especially at the early phases, before you've really gotten good at screening guys for potential dates.
mm-hmm,
So I would say that that's what people call ghosting sometimes, but it's not very common, especially when you have most experience. But when you meet a guy on an app, or like you meet a guy somewhere and there's even no, you haven't even gotten to spend time with him, and also he's the only prospect. When he disappears, you're gonna feel it. But when you're busy dating with other people and making connections and living your life, it's just like, okay, that's the thing. That's where ghosting. Now, of course, there's extremes of ghosting where someone just disappears without
mm-hmm.
knowing. Those are a little bit extremes. And usually, when you dig in, you can know from the lady, like, oh, there were already probably some red flags somewhere. But I would say that's a major thing women complain about ghosting, because you can't control how somebody's gonna show up. You're not in control of how somebody is, and you don't really know them until you get to know them.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Yeah.
so some lessons. We have to be intentional. We have to be
Yeah,
conscious
yeah,
when dating, and we
yeah.
can't just uh it's almost like you're targeting someone. You see a target, you get the target, and then you're just on the target, right? We have
Yeah,
we have to diversify the portfolio, right?
absolutely.
Yes,
You don't put all the eggs in one basket, in
yes,
one pro.
diversify the portfolio
Yeah,
within your boundaries. Because,
absolutely.
because some people think that dating multiple people means having sex with multiple people. You just mean going out for coffee. Like you don't just
Yeah,
go, yeah, okay.
yeah. Let me talk a little bit about that because that's a very common misconception. Like,
Yes, a myth. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
it's a very, yeah, you see, first of all, just generally, it's really not a good idea just because of attachment to have sex with somebody like very early on in the dating journey, right? Casual sex is never a good idea, especially for women. So just because you're dating multiple people, by no means should you sleep with them, right? And I usually say, like, and a lot of dating coaches say, once you sleep with someone, you've lost the game because of all those neurotherapists. There are so many chemicals going on, and your
Yeah.
brain is gonna misinterpret that as attachment. So absolutely not. But here's the thing: sometimes the struggle is like they're so afraid of communicating what you're here for and what you're not here for because they fear losing the connection,
Uh-huh. Okay.
right?
Yes.
They are afraid of communicating their physical boundaries, and there's a way to do that in a very feminine way without like being cursing somebody out and being pissed off. Like there's a
Mm-hmm.
way to communicate your physical boundaries and still keep the attraction, right? It's about how you say it, how you communicate that. But most women find it hard to do that. They're afraid. They're like, okay, what if he says, what am I going to say? Da, 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 da. Is because you're not used to. But that's the beauty of dating. Those are the things you learn when you're dating, how to communicate, and you realize if a guy is genuinely interested in you, he's gonna stick around to get to know you. If he's genuinely interested, that's not going to be a big deal. So yes, it does not mean sleeping around. By no means does it mean sleeping around.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any other myths that you think you can address? Because
Oh,
that is one, yeah, that is one myth, right? And
yeah.
especially in the church, because as you said, you're a Jesus girl. I am a
Yep.
Jesus girl, and
Yeah.
so
Woo! Yeah.
if yeah, if if that is a misconception that people think, then that means that we are really, really robbing ourselves of
Yep.
experiences because we think that. Are there any other myths you can think of off the top of your head?
Absolutely. Yeah. So um, the one that's big is
Mhm.
that you have to wait for a man to approach you before you have to wait for a man to approach, or you have to wait for a man to come to you, or you have to wait for a man to talk to you. And this can look in multiple ways. It can look like in the dating apps, or like just like if you are somewhere social. It's almost like, oh, if he likes me, he'll come and talk to me, right?
Mm.
Likes
Mhm.
me, thinks I'm attractive, he'll come and talk to me. Or something like, I can't talk to a guy fast. So there are like three levels on that. And let me talk about the most common. So
Yes.
the most common one is that a man should approach you fast. We can approach men, and I'm going to qualify this. It has to be in a feminine way. It has to be in a way that gives him a green flag to come and talk to you. So that looks like smiling, eye contact, waving, being open in your body language. Men are they are human beings like us. There's no
Mhm.
way a man is gonna come. Your five girls, you're a squad of your five girls there. He's gonna
Mhm.
come to you, single you out, and be like, you, can I have your number? And most men are not gonna do that. And if they do, I would be like, he's too courageous. Is he a
Mm.
player? I would be like, I would question that.
Yeah.
So the idea that a man has to, like, he's going to come and talk to you is I feel like it's a bit of a myth. I don't feel like it is a bit of a myth. We have to learn how to identify the man you would like to socialize with in the space that you are with. And if you like someone, of course, you're like, oh, he's handsome, or he's good looking, including in church, hallelujah, including,
Yes.
you have to, like, you have to like be able to give him a green light to approach you. Otherwise, how is he gonna know? He's not a prophet, he's not a mind reader. And those are like the feminine techniques of like a man, giving a man a green flag. So it's like a smile, a wave, eye contact, body open body language. That's what gives men a signal. But even still, if you're like traveling, or you're like in the elevator, or you're like getting a coffee, and there's people around you, I say always talk to people around you, both men and women, right? Say hi, give them a compliment, say hi, because one, when you're open and friendly, you appear open and friendly. So if there's a guy there who's like thinking, oh, she's cute, you're giving him a green light to come to you. And then again, just good old-fashioned conversation. Just because you say hi to a guy and just say hello, how's your day going, does not mean that you're like you have an you're chasing. You're doing the chasing, right? And this is what I talk about, the concept of the funnel, and this is not like unique to me, like in terms of what I teach, but at the top of the funnel, you want to, if you look at the dating pool as a funnel, like up here, you're just kind of
Mhm.
all being social. There are not so many rules out up here, but people put so many rules up here. And in terms of like what I should say, I shouldn't say, I shouldn't talk, I'm doing this, I'm chasing, I'm this, instead of being very socially open. And then as you get to know these guys, that's when the rules should become more stringent.
Mhm.
So it's inverted. You're too uptight over here, right?
Mm.
Nobody gets through, right? And then the one who gets through, you focus on him because he's the only one, as opposed to being open socially, right? And
Mhm.
allowing many guys to come through, going on dates, meeting guys, and then using your own values and your principles and your to vet and see. So women tend to have it outside. You're too picky here and very less selective over here because he's the only one.
I
So
know. Ah,
yes, you see. And I also
that's another light bulb moment right there.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
We shouldn't be,
Exactly.
because if you're closed up here, then
Yeah.
what nothing comes through, anything barely comes through.
Or whatever comes through is like so random, you don't
Yeah.
even know if it's okay or not okay. Right? And that's how we
Mhm.
spend time on one guy for 3, 4, 5 years, or maybe get into a marriage that's not as is not was not the right marriage for you or the right partnership for you. Right.
Mhm.
But when you're open here, and there's so ways, also there's several ways, there are two ways to meet guys. You meet guys organically, or you can meet guys, and organically is like through your social activities. So that's why I say you need to have a life, you need to have interests. What are you doing on the weekend? Are you always home? What do you love to do, right? You meet similar like-minded people, and that's actually one of the best ways to meet similar like-minded people. So you're pursuing interests, you're pursuing passions, and when you go there, you're socializing, you're open, you're having conversations, you're not waiting for the man to approach you, you're there for a common interest, right? The other ways, you can, of course, ask people to introduce you to other people and then just be social everywhere you go. Or you can meet guys online. And I had a workshop just there, just on Friday. I was talking about this for almost like 90 minutes, right? In,
Mhm.
treating the dating apps in the same way it's an open funnel, right? And you want to be, if he's decent and he's respectable, you want to give him a chance earlier on, and you want to get off the app very quickly, so that you can have you can have more guys coming in, and then now you can be able to like to specialize, or rather to, how do I say, to filter them more. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. So
Yeah.
what did you say? You say that you want to get off the app quickly, or you don't want to get off the
I
app
want
quickly?
them to get off the apps quickly, and
Mhm.
because the thing is, there's a difference between. I feel like people stereotype. Oh, that's another myth, that online dating is for the desperate. It's for the
Oh.
desperate souls, right?
Mhm.
Um, Especially here in America, it's such a mainstream way of meet. Like 25% of the marriages, like people met online. Uh,
Mhm.
but there's a difference between online dating. So some people think like online dating means virtual dating. Like I'm like now me and you, let's say you're a dude, like we're getting to know each other like this, like
Mhm.
that's it, right?
Mhm.
Versus dating apps are just, it's a tool, it's a social tool to connect you with guys you would not have been able to connect with in person. But the idea is to connect and to get offline and to get to know the person.
Oh, okay, that's what you mean. Okay.
That's what I
Okay.
mean.
Okay.
That's what I
Okay.
mean. So I discourage chatting on the apps for more than a week or two, and taking it offline. And taking it offline means expressing to the person that you would love an in-person connection. Can they plan a date? Or, in a feminine way, expressing that, like, hey, are we gonna chat forever? Are you gonna take me out on a date? Right? And
Mm-hmm.
that makes a
Mm-hmm.
guy like, oh, I need to take action. That's what I mean. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the safe ways of doing that, you can have a Google number, right? Where somebody
Yeah,
doesn't have all your details, especially if
absolutely.
you want to be
Yes.
safe, right?
Absolutely. You want to be safe. There's ways some apps have video calls, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you can always agree on a spot to meet, that you choose, right? And this is
Mm-hmm.
where I say,
Mm-hmm.
ladies, let's not romanticize the first meetup, the first date. Just
I
a
think
casual,
that's another mistake we make, right?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You're
Every
like,
day
oh, the
becomes
guy
like
is
a
not,
romantic thing.
yeah.
Okay.
And they say this like, a high value man will not take me to a coffee shop. No, right?
No.
Like you want to go to a coffee shop because you want to spend a little time. You just want to see if there's a connection. You just want to see the person. You want to meet the person in person. So you want first meetups to be short. You want them to be not time consuming. You don't want to be necessarily like dressing to the nines every first date. You're gonna get tired. You're gonna get tired, right? There's so much
Yes.
time after that
Yes.
first meetup for romantic dates and what. There's so much time for that. So you
Mm-hmm.
want that first date to be like very easy, short. Just it's like a go see. It's like window shopping. It's like shoe shopping,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're
Mm-hmm.
you're not committed. You're not vested. Just like, oh, nice, or I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's how you want it. That's how you want the first date to be. Yeah. So you have to be safe. You can always decide. If the guy's like, let's meet here, and you can always say, well, I want to feel I would like to go somewhere that's I feel a little safer.
Something familiar.
Can,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
be familiar with. Can we meet here? And most healthy men have no problem with that. In fact, most of them will be like, hey, is there some specific place you'd like to go? Or you can even write that on your dating app and say how you want to connect. That's actually works like magic. And you can just say, hey, show me your favorite coffee spot or something like that, and that gives the man the idea of what you would like to do. But you can have a
Mm-hmm.
video call before. You don't have to exchange numbers until you meet in person and you feel good about it. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
all this safety around like online dating. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as you said, you can't oh, I lost my train of thought. But anyway, I like the way you say that when a woman presents themselves, they're not just um, throwing themselves. So, for example, when you said, dressing up for that's the point I wanted to make.
Yeah.
Dressing up for the first date, like if you're dressing to the nines for every
Yeah.
first date, that is, I can imagine that. First of all, you're gonna have to. Oh, I used this outfit the last time. It's too much work. And also for the guy, it's too expensive. That would be very expensive if every date that they go on, they have to go all the way. That they
Mhm.
would be broke too.
Right.
So, as we are winding up, can you tell us, without telling us the name and whatever, one of your most favorite success stories?
Ooh. Oh, for my clients, is that what you
Yes,
mean?
from your clients. Yes. Mhm.
Oh, I would say that a lot of them, because they haven't dated in a while, like they haven't dated in a long time, just
Mhm.
watching them literally like say like I haven't dated in like 3, 4, 5 years, or like I've used these apps before, they've never worked for me, and see them like just transform into like confident women who are open and ready to date, and actually meeting men and having like quality experiences and quality dates and having options and going on 2, 3 dates a week, right?
Mm,
And just even them feel like, oh, I'm actually enjoying this. Maybe I want to
mhm,
push my goal for finding somebody a little bit so that I can enjoy this season. To me, that's where I want all my clients to reach, because I know that the the destination is the journey. It's not the end. It's
Mm-hmm.
the man is gonna come. That's like inevitable. Like he is going to come. And I want them to enjoy the process. So once they get to that point, and that is the work, even for me as a coach, it's getting them to enjoy that process, because you're not going to find somebody until you are at a high vibrational level where you are enjoying. So to me, the clients who I've been able to work with, who have
Mm-hmm.
like finished working and together and they're out there doing their thing, I know it's just a matter of time before they come back and be like, okay, I found my person. So to me,
Mm-hmm.
that is the biggest success story. Yeah.
Okay. Now, how do we get in touch with you if someone wants to get in touch with you?
Oh, sorry. And I have to say something else. Another
Yes.
success story is when they get into exclusive relationships because they feel
Mm-hmm.
they found somebody, and then they realize this is not the person for me very early on, and they can walk away from it.
That is a success. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, in a very short time, because previously it was 3 4 years. It took me like
Mm,
2 3 months to be like, I don't think this is for me, because they know they cannot be not true to themselves.
mm.
That's another success story. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
What were you asking?
No, I was saying, how can we get in touch with you? If someone wants to get in touch with you,
Okay.
and yeah, we have about a minute to go.
Right.
Um, how can we get in touch with you?
Um, how can you get in touch with me? Okay, if you're watching this, it's on Facebook, right?
Yes, it's on Facebook.
So,
Yes, and I'll put your details below
yeah,
the
just
video.
just slide into my DM. How we do it in the dating world. Slide into the DM. Just let me know who you are. What you need, and I'll just connect with you there. I think you shared details of my book. If you
Yes.
want to have a good read and just get a mindset shift, that's a good place to start. Once you download that book, you're going to be on my email subscriber list, and you'll be hearing from me every so often. And you can always write me an email. Those are the
Mhm.
two best ways to for us to connect. Yeah.
And you know what I like about your program, Charity? I can't remember
Yeah.
the amount of time, but it was not like a 3 months I'm with you, and then I abandon you.
Year long. It's a year long. Yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah.
it's a
And
year-long process
yeah,
that you take the client from baby steps to when they feel that they're uh, mature enough to walk or even run and
yeah,
scream, right? Okay.
exactly. Exactly. And because for me, I know that my own journey, so I say for me, I started consciously dating through first being coached into other areas of my life,
Mm-hmm.
and then that spilled over into my dating life. And and it took me actually a year and a half to meet my husband. So I'm not even trying to tell you it's a quick fix.
Mm-hmm.
This
Quick
is not,
fix, yes.
I'm not even gonna say you're gonna get a guy in 90 days, you're gonna get a guy in 120 days. For me, that's not. I'm interested in you being, like we talked about, being the person that the person is looking for, is attracted to, and that is a journey. Like that is a journey that I'm committed to walking you through. So it's so funny because I usually say I'm a life and dating coach, because life comes fast, and then out of that comes dating. So we work
Mm-hmm.
a lot of life stuff, right? Some of my clients end up getting better jobs, some leave toxic jobs, some move, some buy houses, some, because I also want them to work on their personal goals. Because when you're doing that, you're becoming the best version of yourself, and you start to feel good about life, you feel good about yourself, and then you are able to also date in a very healthy way. In summary, yeah.
Thank you, Charity. I want to thank you. Can you give us a last parting shot? Do you have anything?
Yes, I want to say that, ladies, if you are listening to me, it doesn't matter how old you are. If you're single and you desire love, I want you to know that you have to take responsibility over your own love life. Just like you take responsibility in everything in your life. You know how to look for a job, you go get education, you up your skills, you build a house. You have to take responsibility over it. Don't leave it to chance. Don't be passive about it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be like it will happen when it's supposed to happen. And if there's something that doesn't sit with you, that you've been hanging on to, question that, question those beliefs, approach it with curiosity, ask yourself, okay, how else can I do this? Take responsibility over your love life. That's my parting shot.
Thank you so much, Charity, for your time. And even I have learned a lot of things that I can also impart, a lot of words of wisdom from you that I can also impart to my friends who are single and in the dating scene, in these streets, this dating streets.
So
With that,
fun.
Charity, I would like to say thank you so much for joining us today. And to our viewers, I want to say bye bye until next time.
Bye.